We're back. We're live. Run a little late. I apologize. My apologies. But I am super excited to be here and be available to answer questions. And so please, if you got questions, I'm here to answer them. My goal is to try and make the hiring process a little less opaque, a little bit more clear, right? And to help folks that may be struggling with the job search. So first and foremost, one way I can help out with that is we're hiring. So if you are looking for a entry-level role, whether you have experience or don't have experience, we are hiring candidates into our apprenticeship program. I would encourage you to head to our website, which is in the little crawler at the bottom here, and apply online. Very important when you apply, first you have to register on the website. So register, and that's not applying, that's just registering. Then you can fill out the application, fill it out completely. Make sure that you include your resume and your cover letter and a link to your GitHub and your LinkedIn, because that's what we kind of use when people say, well, how do you select candidates and what do I need to do to, get to the top of the list and get an interview? Fill out the application first, right? First things first. If you fill out the application first, that will make it so much easier for us to very quickly pull the information that we need together and see where you fall in terms of prioritizing reviewing applications. We do prioritize reviewing applications because we're a Department of Labor Registered Apprenticeship Program. So as an example, veterans, you get to the top of the line. So every day, if a new veteran applies, new veteran goes to the top of the line. So veterans, apply for this. It's a great program. It's a great opportunity. So we have, we've got programs that certain people will qualify for the pre-apprenticeship. So again, really important that we qualify for those people and get them into that pipeline. So we got a lot on our shoulders, but we are hiring. I made an offer today and an offer yesterday. So we are writing offers. That said, super duper excited to be here and just take questions from folks. So if you have a question about the job search, about interviewing, about reaching out, about networking, please drop it in the comments. More than happy to hang out here for a while, answer your questions. If we don't get questions, that's fine. That means that your head's down, work in the process, and we'll be here again next week. This is kind of open office hours. Happy to have this conversation. And the previous ones that we've done are in our YouTube channel, so you can check out the whole lot of them. Should be a great resource for anybody looking for landing that first job in tech. One thing that I haven't reset in a while, so I'll reset it, which is we as humans sometimes don't, it's hard to be consistent. And that's the one thing I would suggest, that if you're feeling down, you get some of that negative energy, you're getting people denying and saying, hey, you're not a good fit or not enough experience. Just remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And so the one thing that stuck with me, someone said, why do you think people quit going to the gym? We all want to look swole and be in good shape and have hot bods and all that. Why do people quit going to the gym? I was like, I don't know, because it's hard, because you get sore. And it's no. The reason why people quit going to the gym is because they don't see immediate results. And so when they don't come out of the gym looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger after January 15th, and they've been in the gym for 2 weeks and the soreness is starting to get off, but now they're like, I'm not dropping the pounds, I'm not getting ripped. They kind of give up and quit. And what you have to remember is it's going to take a while, and it's going to take consistent, diligent effort for a while. And then the opportunity will just appear, and you'll be ready for it, and you'll just crush the opportunity. And it's sometimes people will be like, oh, it took a while, I didn't realize, and then when I get a hold of them, we interview them, and then the letter goes out, and it's everything happens real fast, right? So just keep that in mind. There could be that perfect fit for you is right around the corner, but you got to do the work of walking down the street and making that turn. So have confidence that if you're following the process, the one that I usually talk about, then you will shorten the amount of time it takes for you to walk that block and turn the corner, right? So the things I tell people, the first and foremost, I suggest that you treat the job search like a job. And so that means you got to be kind of organized and have a process. You want to have a spreadsheet where you're tracking the numbers so that you can kind of self-report, and you can say, this is how many reach outs I did this week. This is how many follow-ups I did. This is how many times that I got a phone screening. This is how often that I got. People just keep calling. Just keep calling. This is how many times I get of phone screening. This is how many times I got to an on-site interview, and you can start looking at those numbers and determining where you have they call leaks in your pipeline. Right? You might have a leak in that you're not getting a lot of quality phone screenings. Right? They're not calling you back. That might mean it's something about your reach outs or your resume. Take a look at those, dial them in, tweak them a little bit. Could be a scenario where you're getting phone screenings, so you're getting to talk to people. They're just not scheduling interviews. Then you have to diagnose what are you saying on those calls, right? And you have a place where you can start to tweak and make adjustments. If you're not tracking, if you don't know how many reach outs you do per week, you got to be doing that, because otherwise you don't have any way of getting better. And frankly, you're not treating it seriously. You're not treating it like you would if it was a job and someone was like, hey, how successful are you at your, search for the job? You don't want to say, well, I haven't got a job yet, so I'm a failure. That's not the case. Instead, if you haven't got a job yet, you want to be able to talk about leading indicators. Leading indicators. Look that up. Leading indicators. Those are the activities that you do that lead to your key performance indicator, which is getting a job, right? Getting an offer. That's the thing that matters. That's the holy grail. Job offers. In theory, you want to get multiple job offers all at the same time so that you can negotiate. But worst case scenario, just take the job offer that comes, right? So, got a couple questions that have come in since I started talking. I have a system admin web development background. Would it be smoother transition first into DevOps and then into software engineering? Not usually. It's actually the opposite. Usually people start with software engineering. They start maybe on the front end, then they might move to the back end or full stack. Then once they've done full stack back end development for a while, then they get more into DevOps. You can, at any point in time, you can decide this is what you really want to do. You want to do DevOps work, and you just start getting experience doing DevOps work. So you need some foundational experience, and then you need some very specific hands-on reps of time, using infrastructure as code, right? So using some of the tools to scaffold up infrastructure, tear the infrastructure down, scaffold it up and play chaos monkey, break some things and see if you can figure out what's been broken, right? So once you get both your schooling and knowledge and some experience, then you can get after it, start applying for jobs. I don't think you have to go in one direction where you have to start as a software engineer and then go to DevOps. It's just more common because it's just a natural progression of skills that you need to get the job done. So you start on the front end, you care less how the database is working. You're just like, hey, I make an API call and the data gets stored, right? And then pretty soon someone's like, hey, can you help us figure out why the API is not working? And then you need to start learning some of the backend stuff. And you start figuring out, okay, there's the backend API, and then there's the databases, and you start learning how the database is working. And then pretty soon it's like, okay, I understand how all the backend is working in the database. And then someone says, hey, can you go set up another environment? We need a new dev environment, or we need to spin up a new product. Can you go help us set up a new environment for that? And now you're full-fledged. Now you're in DevOps, right? Now we're figuring out how do you get the environment ready and how to get the applications deployed on the environment. That's the way it normally goes. But you don't have to go that way. You want to go DevOps first? So be it. It's just a lot of times people start at software engineering because it's just the lower hanging fruit. You need more software engineers than you do DevOps people. But DevOps is a premium. You get paid pretty well. So what do you want to do? That's the question. I wouldn't worry too much about the transition. What do you want to end up doing? And then start the path. Figure out what that path looks like. So hopefully that's helpful. There's a random user asking, is it worth hiring a staffing agency? So I'm guessing that you mean from the point of a recruiter. Is it worth having a recruiter represent you? Maybe. I'm not sure. That question is a little vague. So if you could maybe add a little bit more context, I think I might be able to nail it for you. If it is that, if I'm guessing correctly, a recruiter, if you are an early career developer with very little prior experience, recruiter is not going to be helpful. And I could go into a long diatribe about that, but I'll basically just say it's not in their financial benefit for them to spend time helping junior engineers. So sometimes they'll do resume workshops and they'll help people out of the goodness of their heart. They want to volunteer, but you are not their customer. If you're an early career developer, you are not the customer you're not their ideal customer, right? and you will just like cost them time. They won't be able to make anything because no one is going to pay them to represent you as a junior developer. It would be like me saying that an NFL agent should represent me. Like, why would an NFL agent represent me? I can't play in the NFL. Like, I have no hand-eye coordination to be on the field. So it would just like, there's no incentive for them to have a conversation with me, right? That's kind of the way you should think about it. If it's, should you hire an agency for staff? I think there's better ways. You know, maybe ping some of the people that are following this video and see if they could be good fits. If you're struggling to find talent, that's, you know, a whole different issue. So if you could just add a little bit of clarification, I'm more than happy to touch that one up a little bit. Matthew, if someone has a good knowledge of front end and limited knowledge of back end, should you look to strict front end job or full stack? I think you're okay with full stack. If you know a little knowledge of backend, I think you'll be okay because you can grow into it as an early career. I wouldn't want you to just completely discount, like you can't do full stack until you really feel solid on the back end, because again, it's incremental. You can incrementally learn, and when you're an early career developer, I wouldn't close off any of those doors. Your early career. So even if you said, well, I have a little bit of front end knowledge and a little bit of back end knowledge, be like, all right, cool. Like you're in the same position as saying, I'm more comfortable on the front end and a little bit of knowledge of the back end. Just go for it. Don't worry about it. I think you'll be good. Again, as a junior engineer, I'm not expecting you to like be lights out on either the front end or the back end. So the reality is you could pick up both of them fairly quickly. Hannah asks, when applying for a creating coding careers apprenticeship program, is it necessary to have some sort of portfolio to show basic coding experience in order to be accepted, or can someone have fairly new to it? Fairly new to it. So we're looking for more soft skills than we are looking for the technical skills. And so like when I'm asking people for their GitHub, it's not always like to see, you know, it is helpful to know, like when someone says, I went to a, so let me back up. Someone says, I went to a coding bootcamp. I'm like, great. Show me your GitHub. And they show me their GitHub and I see this blob of green and then I see a sea of white on both sides. So that for the non-technical people, they don't know what we're talking about. But for the technical people, what that means is you did a lot of coding during your bootcamp and then you did nothing on either side. That's not a good sign. That doesn't mean we're not going to let you into the program. Well, that's a red flag, right? So now you got like fresh red flag. So what I would suggest is, sure, if you got a portfolio, it's got some stuff on it, great. Share your portfolio. But it isn't going to change whether or not we think you have the capacity to be a good developer. The same way someone that comes in and has no portfolio because they haven't done any coding before, then I look at their resume and their resume says that they've been, you know, they've been a food handler or they've been working in retail. Like, all right, cool. Now I'm looking for different things. I'm looking for like, oh, are they consistent, right? Are there any gaps in their employment? If so, did they cover it in their cover letter and talk about why? So we're looking for really like good employees, not necessarily good software developers coming into the program. We're trying to identify, like for each person, like what are the things that make that person a good potential candidate? And then if you make it to the interview process, then it's a behavioral based interview. It's not about coding. It's really about like, how do you respond in these like scenarios? Can you tell us about things that we think are important? The things I think is important or are important for early career developers include your learning agility. So being able to not just say that you're a fast learner, but have some evidence that you learn and pick things up. And then it's not going to take you the full year to be ready to work at a client. You'll be ready to work at the client in like 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, whatever, you know, makes sense and is reasonable based on your skill sets. Grit. We're looking for folks that have, you know, determination. We're looking for folks that can communicate well, that can collaborate well, which includes getting along with other people. So all of those are the more important factors. And it's very like not important at all that you have a portfolio. But just keep in mind that like any fact, it's kind of like almost like a prosecutor. Any fact I find could be used to your advantage or to your disadvantage. So when you're applying, we want to kind of see it holistically. Does what you've shown back up? Okay, you said you went to immersive coding bootcamp, then you only coded for the time you were there, and you didn't code the other. Like, that's not a good sign. Then I'd want to see in the person's cover letter an explanation, and I'd want them to say, "Oh, well, here's the reason why I was unable to." And it better be that you were in a coma because you went to the bootcamp. You should be coding afterwards, right? You should be doing it as a hobby, right? You should be spending that time that you have not watching TV, but like building things and learning. So hopefully that helps. I hope. Michael Wang, met a third-party agency, not a recruiter from the company I applied to. Found some that require a fee. I'm not sure. So meant a third-party agency, not a recruiter from the company I applied to. Found some that require a fee. Not sure what that means. I think what you mean is still a staffing agency, and so someone representing you from a staffing agency. Not likely to be helpful as a junior engineer. There's just not a lot of demand for companies to say, I want early career software developers. What they generally, when they pick up the phone and they're like, hey, I need to call a staffing agency, I need software engineers, they'll say, hey, I'm looking for senior software engineers. Do you have any senior software engineers that I can hire right away? So there's not a lot of demand for early career developers through agencies. I don't think it's a great route. Matthew asks, on my resume, I have a long opening statement. How can I cram everything into there? Don't even try. I don't think the opening statement's very valuable. So from a hiring manager perspective, when I look at it, it's kind of, I just look at it to see, did the person actually customize the resume to fit close to like what we do? So if I look at a resume for someone applying for like, let's say a software engineering role, and they put, I'd love to be a business analyst in an organization that's fast moving, right? I'll be like, why do they send me a resume with like business analysts as their goal? We're hiring for software engineers. So that's like red flag, right? You want to avoid those red flags. So instead, what I would focus on is like, use that real estate. You can actually just say, I'm a early career software developer that enjoys working on the front end, right? You haven't said you're not going to do full stack. You haven't said you're not going to do backend. You haven't said you don't like PHP. You've just said what you enjoy, right? I think that's a great one-liner. That tells me right off the bat, okay, this person is more interested in the front end. Awesome. Then you read the rest of the resume. Then you go from top to bottom and list the most important attributes that you have that are going to let me know that you're a good fit for the job. So that could be your education, your portfolio, your work experience, right? If you have a really strong education, like you went to a top immersive coding bootcamp, you might want to put that at the very top. If you went to community college for a year and then you're self-taught, you probably want to put that at the bottom because you don't have that achievement of being able to say you've got an associate's or you got a bachelor's or whatever. So you can put it on there, but you're going to lower it. That way, as I start getting tired as I'm reading your resume, then I've already gotten the most important substantive material. If you give me a paragraph to read right away, I'm probably not going to read it. Just being straight up. Most HR people, they see a paragraph, it feels like it's a book, and they're not going to read it. So it defeats the purpose of what you're trying to do, which is like you're trying to shove information towards them. But here's what you want to do. Shove only the most important information towards them in a way where they can easily digest it. They should be able to scan your resume, visually scan it and see like, okay, I can tell the top section here is there's contact information. Okay, the next section here, I can see this is what they're interested in. This is their goal. Awesome. That aligns with our job. Great. Let me keep reading. Okay, I can see the next thing is projects. Awesome. And then there's a description of the project. And then there's some technologies that you use with it. So if you're going to mention a bunch of those technologies, like I've used SQL, I've used React, I've used JavaScript, I've used HTML, CSS, put them with projects so that I can say, oh, okay, that's project that he used those things with. Okay, I can see Matthew use these other technologies in this other project. So he's got some experience. That's good. Right? That counts. That's experience. Then I look at job history. I want to be able to scan the dates and see where are the gaps. How much work experience do you have? Are there any gaps in employment? Right? Which, again, could lead to a red flag. Could lead me to believe that you're a job hopper and you're hopping from job to job. Or I could see consistency. So, again, you have to sort of like, if that's not your strongest suit, then you put that towards like the bottom. And you hope that they don't get that far, that before they get there, they're just like, all right, we got to bring this Matthew guy in for an interview. Right? So that's kind of how I would think about it. I wouldn't think about how do I get this 5-sentence paragraph down into one. I would think of like, what's your goal there? Your goal is just to give them a one sentence about like how this all ties together. That you're, early career, interested in this, love working at, would love to work at a fast moving tech startup, whatever, right? And you have a bunch of different resumes that have a different leading sentence there with what your goal is, right? Or you're a software engineer that wants to gain more hands-on experience and explore DevOps. Passion for in infrastructure, right? That's fine, and that's it. Don't try and like oversell it. Use your cover letter for that if you have that opportunity. That's where you can write a paragraph about like all these things that you're talking about. Don't try and cram on your resume. Josh, hello. Thanks for the time. You are welcome, Josh. Anytime. Matthew asks, is this a way to get all the scanner keywords in there? Yeah. I would put them, so the human beings, we like to read it in context. So I don't like seeing a bunch of skills listed up at the very top. I like to see project, skills on that project. And then like, oh yeah, I can even almost imagine how you might have built that using that technology. That's good. Cool. Check. You're getting the little checks. You're scoring points, right? If I see just a list of the skills, then I'm just like, it's not a red flag, because I'm just like, all right, cool, you got so many skills, but I don't know like how relevant they are. I don't even know if you know what any of these mean, because you're just like listing them all together. And then sometimes they'll be like, you'll list a bunch of like frameworks and then one tool, and I'll be like, why did they list a tool in the middle of all these frameworks that they know? Like there's no consistency to it or whatever. So it could just be jarring. So it's much easier if you're just putting it with a project, because now it's like, okay, the scanners, the systems that automatically scan, they get it. The keywords like trigger the system, but the human being can kind of like consume it in a more reasonable way. So that's how I think about it. I think it also looks nicer too. Word opening statement like your software developer. Sure. It's not that, like, I wouldn't invest too much of your time on this. I would really focus more on like, I think since I've seen your resume, I would focus it more on like getting those projects on there. Right. So Matthew has shared his resume with me, which is why I'm saying that. So I gave him some feedback, and the one thing that I noticed was that big text was like, oh, there's the book. All right, the book's not going to work. The book is it's off-putting for HR folks, because they just want to like rip through this. They're like, please, I just want to be able to look at this resume and in like 5 to 7 seconds make a decision. That's it. That's your fate right there. They won't even get through the first few sentences in that amount of time. So they'll just stop. They'll just see the paragraph and be like, nope, this is a no. They're in the other basket, which is devastating. Devastating. I know. All right. I think that I ripped through all of those questions. So I have a hard stop in roughly 6 minutes. We got to cut this one a little short because I got to get on a board meeting call. But that said, I can take a few more questions if there are a few more from the audience. And we'll do this again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Although I'm guessing most people, unless you're watching that like Nick at Night Cartoon Network, you probably have no idea what that means. So link to my GitHub project with my skills or projects you made using the skills. I would do like 3 sentences max about each project. And then, yeah, include a link. The link's not going to be great for someone that's like printed it out and is looking at a piece of paper, unless you like, cool move would be make sure you use like Bitly for a URL shortener or Google shortener, so that person could actually like pull it up on their phone. So if they're looking at your resume, they could pull it up on their phone or on their laptop and quickly like bring it up. I'd say the combo of the two is super helpful, because if I'm pulling up a resume, and again as a PDF, so please send your resumes as PDFs. There should be a clickable link in there for the project. They click on the project, they go to it, they can actually see a live working version of it. And bonus points, if you take them also, there's an easy way for them to get to the code. Because the first thing I'm going to do is like, I'm going to look at finish, see, does it look like it's not broken? Does it look well designed and planned out? Is it obvious how you might use the tool or the application? And then I'll be like, oh man, now I want to see some code. So then if you make it super easy for me, you give me a link to the GitHub repo and the code's there, then I can like jump in. I can see, okay, you understand, how to organize your files, and you understand how to indent code, right? And so like, it looks like it's been well linted, and it doesn't look like it's just like kind of crazy. So all those things would inspire confidence in me. I'd be like, all right, cool. Like, let's set up a phone interview. Well, that's what you want. You want the person to just very quickly be like, okay, easily can get to these things and can easily see the quality of the work that you can currently produce, and then easily be able to say, okay, this is an easy one. You've made everything super convenient. You've like been very super respectful of my time and haven't wasted it. So like this is an easy one for me to say, okay, on to the next. This is a yes, on to the next step. That's what you want. You want like everything looks like it's in order. Cool. Next step. You're never gonna like, oh man, this is amazing. We have to hire this person right now. That's not gonna happen. You're an early career developer. So that's not what you're shooting for. What you're shooting for is like no red flags, nothing that stands out. Everything is just like super like buttoned up, on point. Just has to be like on point. All the details are there. No weird word wrappings. No things are out of place. No, this is italicized and this is bolded. Like none of that stuff. It's got to be consistent. No surprises. Because a surprise is almost always bad. Occasionally I get a surprise. I'm like, oh, this is well done. This is amazing. But it's very rare. Bernadette, you are welcome. Random LinkedIn user. Do you think software bootcamp will be beneficial? Sure. Depends on the program. But even bad programs, if you're a good student, you can overcome a bad program. But if you're a bad student and you go to a bad program, it's going to be rough. Going to be rough. So do your research. Talk to previous grads. Look at, if it's in California, look at the performance report. And if you're not sure what it's telling you, like ask somebody in the industry. So like shoot me an email and say, hey, I don't know what this number means. Is this a good number or a bad number? Right? Because it is out there. The information is available, at least for California students, and there's a few other states where it's publicly available. There's also an organization called CIRR, CIRR, and they publish outcomes data. But yeah, look at the outcomes data. Look at the numbers, because the numbers are going to drive whether or not you're going to probably have a decent experience or it's going to be really tough. It's going to be rough. Skill up networking follow-up. I like that. I like that. I heard you last week. Any free coding resources? Free Code Camp. Free Code Camp's real good. So if you can rip through their front-end curriculum, then you're off to the races. You can get a job after going through their front-end curriculum. So don't underestimate just being solid on the fundamentals. And if you're solid on the fundamentals, you'll get there. If you need help, join they've got like Slack channels and communities where people kind of like pull together. They're the people that organize meetups in different cities and stuff. So if you just do a little digging, I'm sure you'll find that community is very supportive. They got some Reddits, but they're very much on like everything has to be free, don't pay for anything, right? So understand you'll be in that bubble. You'll be inside of the don't pay for anything bubble, which I don't think is reasonable. I think there is a good exchange for like your time and speeding things up and getting a better curated curriculum. And that's why a bootcamp might make sense for some people. They're willing to pay a premium to basically not have to do some of the curating curriculum and waiting to hear back from someone if you post a question on like a board versus being able to like ask a question in real time to an instructor, right? That's the give and take. It's just a different experience. But it's like comparing a car to an airplane. It's like there are some things that I will drive my car to, and there are some things that I need to take an airplane to, right? It's just like they're apples and oranges. So I don't have any qualms with the idea of immersive coding boot camps. I just happen to think that our apprenticeship program is like a better opportunity for those people that can get into it. It's just more limited than like immersive coding boot camp because it's harder. It is harder for me to create an opportunity for people to learn how to code and get paid. It's not easy. It's a lot of work. So what is a good boot camp? I would just say the attributes that you're looking for are going to be a program that has very clear and transparent outcomes data, right? That is in some way been validated that people are getting jobs, right? So that's the first thing is like you want to know that if you do the work that there's going to be a good opportunity. Now that said, please, if you're going to go to a coding bootcamp, it's not a transaction. It's not like you pay a certain amount of money and you get a job. You have to do the work. I will say that again. It is not a transaction where you pay for the boot camp, and even if it's a good boot camp, you pay for a good boot camp, and then you just get a job. You have to actually do all of the work. That's 8 to 12-hour days every day, 7 days a week, coding every single day for whatever the period of time is, 4 months, 6 months, if you want to get the most out of your boot camp. So it's not so much like what's a good boot camp is, are you ready to put the effort in And if so, even if it's a trash program, you'll still be fine. It'll be harder for you, but you'll still be okay. But if you're not a great student, you're not very diligent, you're not very resourceful, you don't hold yourself accountable, there's no boot camp that's going to be able to like make up for that. And if they're doing the right thing, they won't let you in because they'll identify it in the screening process and be like, you're not a good fit. Sorry. So examples of good programs. I think HackRactor /Galvanize still has a couple campuses that have really strong programs. Up in LA, Savio, they got a really good program. Codesmith up in LA, really good program. Online, Thinkful, great program. App Academy, great program. So they're good programs. I'd probably steer clear of some of the bigger ones with not as great outcomes. So sort of the middle of the pack programs, like the General Assembly is not the top, and anything that's run by like Trilogy or 2U, those are usually some of the worst outcomes, and they don't provide a lot of outcomes clarity. So you asked, I'm telling you the truth. So you heard it from me. Bernadette, I would also check your local library. Yeah. Library has like lots of great ways. Exactly. Bernadette said LinkedIn Learning and Coursera, they have like free subscriptions. So you go to the library, you can get onto some of those learning platforms. But the real substance is going to be, you got to get in there and you got to actually wrestle with the code. So it's not about watching the videos. It's about building really small projects and coding every day. If you're doing that, you will see your skill level go through the roof. But it's not an instant thing. It's not like you're going to go to the gym and you're going to get out and you're just going to be like yoked and you're going to be doing those pull-ups where you're like going in like in circles and stuff. No, it's not going to happen. It's not reality. That's not how the world works. If you've never played the instrument before, you cannot just sit down and after 2 or 3 lessons, you're just going to be banging out tunes. It doesn't work that way. You will see very small incremental progress, but you will get better over time. If you're consistent, you'll get better. So those are great resources. There are tons of free resources. It's hard, right? So people are often looking for like the shortcut. What's the shorter, more expedient pathway? And that would be something like an apprenticeship, an immersive coding boot camp, a CS degree. Like all of those are like, here's the pathway. Here it's all guided. Here's the curriculum. Here's the instructors. And like everything's laid out for you. And in which case, you just have to do the work at that point. You don't have to do the also piecing it together part. Jeremy asks, great question. Do companies give you tasks that allow you to build up your skills from junior to senior? Generally speaking, yeah. Like organizations want you to be successful when they hire you. So they don't always have a real formal like talent development plan where they're kind of like, oh, in 6 months, we're going to move you to this team and then give you a chance to cross train on this one. Some will have that. Be very good at dialing in. The first thing we do is we bring people in and they work on the QA team. And then after they've been on the QA team for 3 months, then they transition to engineering team. Then we train them cross-function. And so they learn front end, they learn back end, they work with both groups. Then we shift projects. So they're getting to see different parts of our business. So some have a very, very well-defined process that they use. And that's usually like the bigger ones, right? That have a dedicated training and learning department. So once a company gets over about 1,000 people, they should have those kinds of resources. When they're much smaller, and that's a majority of companies, majority of businesses are small businesses, so that's 50 employees or less. When a shop is that size, they don't usually have a formal plan. So what they do is they kind of give you tasks that they feel like when they want to get you to grow a little bit, that are just slightly above your current skill set. And they might give you like, okay, here's a couple tasks we know are just pushing the skill set for Jeremy. And here's a few that are easy. And we'll give you 1 or 2 easy ones so you don't feel like you're getting crushed. And then everything else that's in your queue is kind of a bit of a stretch. And they know you're going to need to ask for some help and get some support. But that's the best way to help you level up, give you a challenge and let you learn something new. So yeah, I would say you should anticipate a lot of that. If the company is hiring junior devs, that's what they should be doing. If they're not, then you'll see churn. So if you see a company and they're constantly hiring junior devs and then letting them go, that's a sign that they're not developing the talent. They're not creating an opportunity for people to upskill. So that's a great question. Matthew, we're like 7 minutes over. I got to go. I'm going to answer these last 2 questions. And then if anybody else sends any questions, I will definitely cover them next week. So last 2. Just started React. Yeah, I love it. React is cool. So starter project. check out 1K Projects. That's a good site for. You can also check out Dribble. Between the two, you can come up with lots of ideas of things that look interesting that you might want to emulate, right? So both of those are great places for ideas. And Mr. De Blasio, you are welcome. All right. Thanks, everybody. I got to go. I got to jump onto a board call. Sorry. We'll catch up next Tuesday. We do this every Tuesday, 12 o'clock Pacific, looking for work. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any comments, questions, concerns. More than happy to. If you send a question, cover it in next week's looking for work, which we'll go the full hour. I got to bounce. Sorry.